When I went vegan over 5 years ago, I knew my life would never be the same. I was giving up meat and cheese, two food groups that were integral to my diet. But there were so many other surprising ways in which my life changed that no one really told me about. So today I'm sharing 15 things I wish I'd known when I went vegan. Something that will surprise you when you decide to go vegan that has nothing to do with what you're eating is the reactions you'll get from other people. When I first went vegan, I knew I would get some questions, but I was not prepared for the amount and frequency of questions I got.
Why would you go vegan? Are you gonna just eat salad?
Where would you get your protein?
At first, when people would ask me, why would you go vegan? I basically just rambled. Animals are friends. Factory farms are bad. The earth is dying. But once I scripted out some stock responses to these common questions I was getting, it got so much easier. For one, I started to sound more convincing, which got a lot of people to take me more seriously. And two, it also reduced the amount of personal, emotional, and mental energy I had to spend to explain my lifestyle to other people. For each person, these stock answers will obviously be different, but if you can take 15-20 minutes to write down your stock answers, read them aloud, and commit them to memory, your life will get a lot easier, I promise. And it'll make you better at having difficult conversations. In addition to all the questions you're you're also gonna get some jokes. A lot more jokes than you're expecting. People really love to joke about how vegans only eat kale. My advice is just because you've given up eating animals and animal products, you don't have to lose your sense of humor. Of course, there is a big difference between making a joke and intentionally being offensive. So if someone makes a joke about how they like to murder animals, I will not be laughing and I'll probably punch them in the balls. But if someone makes a joke about how you can tell when someone's vegan because they won't stop talking about how they're vegan, I'm gonna laugh because it's funny and it's true. Look at me, I'm vegan and that's literally all I talk about on this channel. Vegan, 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 vegan. When I first went vegan, I tried to tell everyone that they should also go vegan. I thought that by sharing important information and raising awareness, it would easily change their minds. I was wrong. Most people just ended up feeling judged. Only later did I learn that psychologists have studied this exact phenomenon. What they found essentially is that when meat eaters feel like they're being judged by vegans, they go into ego protection mode. What that means is that not only do they not change their behavior or stop eating meat, but they also start to think less of vegans. It was only when I changed my approach that I started to see success. Instead of telling people, hey, you should go vegan too, I started showing them how delicious, how rewarding, how satisfying a vegan lifestyle could be. I started to get so many responses from omnivores who would say things like, wow, if vegan food can be this delicious, I can definitely go vegan. And it's through this same approach that I've convinced hundreds of thousands of people to reduce their animal consumption. Of course, if you're talking to someone who's already interested in the why behind veganism, definitely have those conversations. They're very important. But trying to shame someone into changing their lifestyle is almost certainly going to backfire. They're not going to go vegan, and you might actually harden their current views. When I decided to go vegan, I thought my diet was about to get a lot more boring. I figured it'd be worth it though because I'd be doing better for the animals and the planet. To my surprise and my delight, I discovered that I can eat way better than ever before. Before going vegan, honestly, most of my meals weren't that interesting. Think grilled chicken with a salad and some pasta. Not very creative. Without the mentality of I have to have a piece of meat on my plate and then build everything around it, I found that I had so much more flexibility and creativity around the meals I cooked. And as a result, I learned entirely new ways of cooking and of building flavors. Nowadays, I can take a cauliflower and turn it into the most delicious, crispy, spicy cauliflower tacos, or a bunch of mushrooms into the creamiest, dreamiest pasta dish. I can grab some chickpeas and cashews and make epic quesadillas that everyone will love, or use lentils to make an amazing vegan ground meat. Now that I've been vegan for 5 years, I can say with 100% honesty that my diet is way more interesting than ever before. Even more surprising is that going vegan does not mean you have to give up your favorite comfort foods. For example, when Thanksgiving rolls around, I'm still making mashed potatoes, cornbread, and mac and cheese. And when it's date night, I still make a mean mushroom risotto. And when summer is here, you better believe I'm making an incredible peach cobbler. There's a free PDF guide that goes with this video that has links to some of my favorite vegan comfort food recipes, along with resources for all of the other tips in this video. You can find it linked in the description box below. But you don't have to just stick with the American classics. For me personally, going vegan actually brought me closer to my Indian culture and strengthened my relationship with my parents in a way that I never would have imagined. It's inspired me to learn about the best ways to bring out Indian flavors, as well as how to replicate the creamy curries and masalas that are typically made with dairy. Everything from malai kofta to dal makhani to palak paneer. I even had the opportunity to show my mom how to make vegan naan, which was pretty cool because usually She's the one showing me how to make delicious Indian food. And I'm definitely not the only person doing this in the vegan space, so whether you're looking to veganize Mexican food, Japanese food, or Afghani food, there is someone out there who can show you the ropes. And in that free PDF guide I mentioned, I've listed a few of my favorite creators. Before going vegan, I didn't give my pantry too much thought, or really even use it very often. Sure, there was rice and quinoa in there to round out your standard omnivore meal, some basic condiments like hot sauce and ketchup, but the pantry didn't get a lot of love from me. Since going vegan though, my pantry has become a godsend. I've learned to take basic pantry staples like beans, lentils, canned tomatoes, nuts, and make them the star of my dinner plate. I'm not talking about like simple rice and beans. I'm talking gourmet meals like my red lentil curry, chana masala, lentil bolognese, and chili, as well as amazing side dishes like homemade hummus and even desserts like these world-class brownies. They're so good! I also started taking advantage of pantry ingredients that were new to me. Miso paste and dried mushrooms to replace the umami found in meat, tahini and nuts to replicate the creamy textures we love about dairy, all kinds of seaweed for that ocean flavor, and of course nutritional yeast for those cheesy vibes. I even rely on my pantry to bulk up my meals. So I hear from a lot of new vegans that they're always hungry, probably not getting enough calories, but with a stash of nuts and seeds, coconut milk, tahini, nut butters, and olives, I always have something in my pantry that will make my meals more satisfying. And once you master pantry cooking, the benefit is that you can almost always whip up a tasty meal, even if you're short on time, or you haven't grocery shopped in a week, or there's a global pandemic and all the fresh food is sold out. I assumed that when I went vegan, I would be hungry all the time, but to my surprise, the opposite is actually true. Once I started making meals that were big on legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and vegetables, I realized that all the extra fiber I was eating was helping me to stay full for a longer period of time. And as a bonus, it helped me kick my cereal snacking habit, which was a pretty serious one. I found that as long as I add a decent amount of healthy fats, protein, and carbs to each meal, I have no issues staying full. On a very closely related note, one thing that might surprise you is how regular you'll become when you go vegan. Once you start to eat all those plants, all those beans and lentils, you will probably not have any trouble being constipated. I could talk about this topic for hours, but my producer has told me that this may be off-putting for some people and that I should move on. So I will. Another thing I've been surprised by since going vegan is how much of a planner I've become, especially when I leave the house. For instance, if I'm going to a restaurant, I will always look up the menu online before going. And if nothing is labeled vegan on the menu, I'll go to the restaurant's Yelp page. And if the results aren't reassuring, then I will call the restaurant to ask. Yes, I could just call the restaurant to begin with, but I try to avoid phone calls at all possible costs. Sorry, Mom. And if the restaurant says, no, we cannot accommodate you, we have 0 vegan options, but it's an event I can't get out of, say my cousin's baby shower at a steakhouse, weird venue choice, Priya, by the way, then I'll just eat a meal beforehand and maybe order a cocktail at the restaurant. It's really not a big deal. If I'm going to a get-together or a party at someone else's house, I will always call the host ahead of time to see if anyone else coming is plant-based, if they're bringing a dish, and if I can bring one. And when it comes to getting on a flight, you best believe I've packed my snacks because airport food is overpriced garbage. Some of my go-to vegan snacks for traveling are trail mix, bananas and nut butter packs, my breakfast cookies, and roasted chickpeas. And as a last resort, these bars also get the job done. And when I'm traveling to different cities or even countries, I rely heavily on apps and websites to tell me where I can feed myself. And by planning ahead when you travel, you're gonna save money, which is something I found to be generally true on a plant-based diet. Of course, this will vary for each individual and where you live. So if, for instance, you live in an area where fresh food and groceries are a lot more expensive than, say, fast food and junk food, or if life circumstances or disabilities make it difficult for you to cook, going vegan may not be accessible or affordable. But for many of us, including myself, switching to a plant-based diet can actually save you a lot of money, which surprised me at first, but if you think about it, it makes total sense. Your standard plant-based proteins, beans, lentils, tofu, are ridiculously cheap in comparison to meat, fish, and eggs, which often come at a premium, especially the organic, wild-caught, grass-fed varieties. Of course, if your diet features a lot of artisanal vegan cheeses and meats, probably not going to save a lot of money. But if you stick to mostly whole foods, you can actually eat really well on a budget. In fact, last year I challenged myself to eat well on just $5 a day for a whole week, and I was so surprised by how delicious the meals were. So I hope that video is a helpful resource for you, which brings me to my next point. When I first went vegan, I did everything on my own. I read every label of every product at the grocery store, at the pharmacy. I looked looked up every single ingredient I didn't understand to check if it was vegan. It was a lot of work and it was exhausting. But luckily, I soon realized that there were so many online resources that made the transition easier. For instance, if I'm in a new city, instead of looking at every restaurant's menu in a 10-mile radius, I will just open the Happy Cow app where I can find vegan restaurants and vegan options that are near me, and then narrow it down from there. And there are entire blogs, YouTube channels, and Instagram accounts devoted to helping you find vegan junk food, vegan grocery finds, vegan beauty, clothing, shoes, you name it. And if you still can't find an answer to your question, you can always hit up Reddit, where there are tons of very active vegan forums. And of course, if you're in need of cooking inspiration, you can find so many recipes on my channel and my website, and there are also tons of other plant-based bloggers sharing amazing recipes. And in that free PDF guide, I've shared some of my go-to vegan resources. In the decade before I went vegan, I had almost daily stomach aches, but I just thought that was normal and that's how everyone felt. And when I started working in an office, that 3 p.m. slump, I just assumed that was part of being an adult. Going vegan was a game changer for my physical health. Now when I get stomach aches, I'm like, how did this happen? And the amount of energy I have, honestly, it's probably annoying for some people to be around me, but personally, it's been great. I never fall victim to that 3 p.m. slump, and I'm never tired except at bedtime. Oh, and after years of having high cholesterol and low iron, both of those levels are now totally normal. But it's the changes to my mental well-being that have been even more surprising. I like to think of myself as a principled person who stands against oppression and violence, and so once I stopped eating animals and animal products, I felt so much more aligned with myself and my values, like I was living with more intention and purpose. And most surprising of all, going vegan actually healed my relationship with food. In my teens, I had an eating disorder, and then through most of my 20s, I restricted myself from eating certain bad foods, only to inevitably eat those foods and then feel guilty about it. Since going vegan, I've developed the ability to appreciate and respect all plant-based food, to understand the power of food to nourish, but also to comfort, and to just really enjoy good food without any unnecessary labels like clean or dirty. My relationship with food and with myself has never been healthier or happier, and for that, I am so grateful. In the relatively short time that I've been vegan, 5.5 years, vegan substitutes for meat and dairy have gotten so much better. For almost any product you can think of, there is a decent or excellent plant-based substitute out there. So for instance, if you crave meat when you first go vegan, you can't go wrong with Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger. They're designed to taste just like meat, but they're so much better for the environment and obviously better for the animals. I particularly love the Beyond Meat hot Italian sausage. It's so good in this 15-minute sausage and greens pasta, as well as this super easy gnocchi sheet pan dinner. I've made both for non-vegan friends and they love it. The Impossible Burger is great in any recipe where you want that ground beef texture and taste, but if you're looking for something a little less meaty, the field roast Italian vegan sausage is also really good. And when it comes to dairy, honestly, there's an overwhelming amount of variety out there, and in that free PDF guide, I've included a list of recommended dairy substitutes, but for now, a few favorites. Oatly full-fat oat milk. This is my ride or die go-to milk for almost everything. For cheese, my actual favorite is my vegan queso recipe. It is so easy and addictive. It's great in quesadillas, in burritos, tacos, or as a dip for chips. But if you're looking for something store-bought, you can't go wrong with these Chow Creamery slices. We actually have a whole video on vegan cheeses in case you want to check it out after this one. For yogurt, Kulina coconut yogurt is phenomenal in both sweet and savory applications, and for ice cream, my personal favorite is Van Leeuwen's, but Nada Moo is also a wonderful choice. For eggs, I actually have a bangin' tofu scramble that is super eggy, but for store-bought options, just egg is also really amazing. And every year, there are more and more vegan substitutes coming out, and the quality is only going to get better and better. Oh, and one other thing that really surprised me, a little bonus, I finally learned how to meal prep in a way that actually works. You can find out how I do that in this video right here.